I mean, you're in the background there. Nobody can see you. Why are you taking your pants off? Are we going to start this thing, or what's going on?
They're feeding everybody crickets.
We're already recording.
Well, they're already feeding people crickets.
Oh, absolutely.
Do we want to start? How do you want to? You want to? Welcome to the SOE podcast.
We need to turn that fucking thing down.
Is it too loud?
It's pretty loud.
How about that? You like that? See what we can do now? We could never do this before.
I'm not sure that we should do it.
Hey, you know what we need? Brandel,
Yeah.
you can make this happen.
Okay.
What I think we need is up here on the wall,
Gotcha.
kind of out of sight, but as far up as you can get it out of sight,
Gotcha.
an applause sign.
I mean, you're perfect.
All right, what do we want to talk about?
No, what do you want to talk? What do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about what we were talking about inside earlier. Disposable.
Oh, disposable kit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have some disposable
I
kit?
do.
I
Well,
mean,
what-
it's not really disposable, but
So what we were talking about was
the current trend.
the covert rigs, right? We were talking about the
rigs.
covert rig. And you kind of laughed and you're like, people don't realize, the customer, the clientele buying this thing right now does not realize that really is a disposable rig.
I mean, the reality is the guys that are using these, the real dudes, the reason why they're having these made is so they can throw them away. They wear them one time and that's it. So when you're talking about when you're contacting your local gear representative, maybe that's SOE, and you're like, how long is the elastic gonna last? I want to keep this. The guys that are using this shit for real are using it one time, maybe twice, and then they're leaving country, and this shit is going in the Dipsy dumpster.
That's what we were saying. I'm like, people don't realize that 15 years ago, they made rebreathers that you just left underwater. They disintegrated.
So it's the current trend. It's the current trend in the gear industry and even the gun stuff where we want to emulate what the ninjas are doing. And the problem with what the ninjas are doing compared to what regular Joe is doing is ninjas have an unlimited amount of funds. It's like right now, if you go on YouTube, the big craze on YouTube right now is thermals. And they have all these, they're showing all these thermals and they're showing all these night vision devices, and they never tell you, hey, that's a $20,000 thermal. Do you really need a $20,000?
The crazier thing is that people are buying it.
Yeah, some people are.
Like, any dude could have a Ferrari, right? But when the young dude bought a Ferrari, he was still living in mom's house, or he had his Ferrari at his apartment. Any dude can buy a thermal. He just doesn't own a fucking home.
One of the guys that I watch that talks about this stuff all the time was talking about, you have to buy this stuff. You need night vision to survive the end of the world, blah, blah, blah. And his call to arms was, hey, I know a lot of police officers are buying this, and they're maxing out all their credit cards to buy it. The problem is the technology
changes so fucking quick.
Changes so fast. Like the U.S. military, like everybody right now, if you go to T-Rex Arms or pretty much anybody's channel, everybody right now is running around with MVGs and laser pointers. And they're shooting targets. And that, again,
looks cool on film.
It looks very cool on film, and it's awesome. And 25 years ago, that was the standard for the military. But they're going all passive, meaning they're not going to shine any lights downrange anymore because peer adversaries can now see those lasers, and you're fucked. So if you spend the money to get,
now that we gave the Taliban,
if you spend the money to get $20,000 dual goggles and
no, you can't even have duals anymore. You're not even fucking cool with duals. You got to have quads.
Quads are $40,000. If you go and buy that,
you could
stuff,
buy duals and just put some toilet paper rolls next to them. Nobody would know that you got fake duals.
True. Or
fake quads.
If you're really smart, you can buy the quads on eBay at any reputable soft air store, and it just looks like you have quads. That's half the battle right there.
I think some of them are real though. I think some of the, like the airsoft, like people make fun of the airsoft guys, right? Some of the airsoft guys, like, they've got the real shit.
Well, I just saw a video. There's a company that makes a PEC 15, a airsoft PEC 15,
okay,
and it's $300. The guy did a whole thing where they went head to head with a PEC 15, and this thing actually performed better.
And it does all the real functions.
Does all the real things, and it's a full. The crazy thing is this version is made in China, and it's a full power laser. Where any laser that, I mean, technically we could get full power lasers if we just surf eBay long enough, but all the companies here in the United States that sell those IR laser systems, they have to have the neutered FDA version.
Because you might, some asshole kid shot an airplane.
Yeah, whatever. They have to have the neutered version, but this airsoft company is selling full power that go head to head with the PEC 15. So kind of interesting. But anyways, we're spending way too much money. This is what I'm talking about. I mean, we were talking with John. I was talking with John, and I'm like, yeah, the issue is because we have had these, we've been fighting these wars for so long. The Department of Defense has just been throwing money and money at these ninjas.
How much of that do you think is the guys in the Department of Defense, their buddy who they served with is now on a board of directors for some other company? So it's all about assigning contracts.
It's all about assigning contracts. And if you don't have a colonel or a general or whatever in your, it doesn't matter if you make a better piece of gear. Like if you somehow made this bulletproof, flame retardant, with a jetpack attached to the back of it, if you don't have a fucking general, a colonel, somebody former military up there at the Pentagon schmoozing and advocating for you, they're not going to get it. You're not going to get it sold to the Department of Defense.
But do we want to sell it to the Department of Defense? Do we care?
Well, I mean, do we care? If you have a good piece of kit that will help military personnel survive on the battlefield, then yes, we do care. But the reality is, you're better off selling it to civilians than you are the military, because they're going to be like, oh, how much does this cost? Nope, it now costs 10 cents.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they're going to undercut you they're going to undercut you. You're not going to be able to compete in that market anyway.
The government.
Yeah, the government is not. It's not really where you want to make it. Like nobody. You take a look at any of your technology corporations, right? Even Teledyne Ryan, fucking any of the big ones, L3. They're not really making their money off of. I mean, they're making tons of money off the Department of Defense, but they really make their money off of you buying a $40,000 pair of night vision devices that you think is unobtainable, so you go and buy them. That's how you're always going to pay full price when you're buying it as a regular person.
Do you think? So, what do you think these guys are buying these $40,000 night? Like, what in their mind? What's the real? What's the real answer? Not the answer that they fucking say on YouTube or why they told their wife. What's the real? They're waiting for.
No, the same reason why they buy those $40,000 night vision devices. The same reason why you buy a $200,000 Mercedes Benz, because it's the top of the kit, right? It's the top of the kit, and Garand Thumb told you that you needed a pair, and because he said this is the way to survive the apocalypse, everybody runs out and buy it. It's like right now, the M4 or the AR-15 is become old hat.
Right. It's going to be. Didn't Bobby stand in here and say everything's going to be 6'8"?
Yeah. So everything's going to be 6'8". But is
it going to be 6'8"?
No. The M4 is old hat, and because all these YouTubers, Chris Costa, Garand Thumb, I mean, there's a ton of them, they've done all the videos that they can on them. If you look at what they're doing now, they're doing all retro shit, right? They're doing retro rifles, retro.
That's true,
this,
yeah.
And so
lever guns and brands.
So what is everybody doing? Everybody's running out and buying that lever gun because Chris Costa was like, "Hey, watch me work this 45-70." Well,
Chris was in here a couple months ago. And did a class here. I think he took a class at TAC Response and then gave a class also. But I'm like, hey, do you got that lever gun? And he brought it in. Super fucking cool. But we had 20 dudes standing here, and they're like, this is neat. And Chris is like, it's very neat, but bump in the night, I'm not grabbing the lever gun.
Right.
Which everybody would agree with, right? But he said, there are states where you can't have AR-15, so that's a good sell for that, right?
Yeah, it's a good sell for it. You have to have solid wall cartridges to hunt in certain places, so that because those guns usually don't have shoulders, if you're doing 45-70 or 357 Magnum, you can hunt with them. But that's the reality. Again, that's that thing.
That's some silly bullshit workaround, though.
It's just a bullshit workaround.
You can't have this other cartridge, but you can have this. Is it just because it doesn't travel as far? Is that what they're, or they just wrote their bullshit and
No, it's
missed that one?
Again, it's that all the other stuff has been played out. There's too many. Oops. There's too many people. There's too many people that are in that genre, and it's all getting played out. Like, no, I'm not knocking on Chris Costa. He's a fucking professional. But again, you're not gonna buy that 4570 with all that kit on there and run it like Chris Costa.
No,
you're just not.
Well,
gonna.
I mean, you could.
I mean,
if you fucking are willing to do what Chris Costa did.
Yeah, if you are willing to put the time and effort in. But I think the problem with the YouTube crowd is they make it look too easy. Right?
I don't look at Chris and Grantham as the YouTube like I guess because I know Chris, I see Chris out training. I see him, and I know he has a very big presence on YouTube, and that really is his marketing and advertising at this point. But I until you said YouTube, I didn't ever associate Chris with YouTube.
I only say I don't really see a lot of Chris. I mean, I guess I've seen all his 4570 stuff just because
like Grantham
pops up.
I associate Grantham with YouTube because I don't know Grantham, but I've watched a lot of his content and it has all been on YouTube.
It's an animal, and they have to feed that. YouTube is an animal. If they're making money on YouTube, it's an animal. They have to feed that animal in order to get the money off of YouTube, and they have to keep creating new content. So I'm not saying it. I'm not saying if you want to buy a 4570 lever gun with all the fucking bells and whistles on it. But again, all you're doing is replacing the AR-15 that you already bought all the bells and whistles on it, and it already performs better than a 40. You know why here's the thing. Do you know why the government doesn't use 4570 anymore? Because it's not as good as 5.56. You can't carry as much ammo. It doesn't shoot as far. I mean, okay.
It doesn't shoot as fast.
If alien spaceships show up and they land, and Kodiak grizzly bears get out of those spaceships, we will get 4570s again. But, the likelihood of that happening are pretty low.
But if you're going out to Kodiak Island.
And
you want some bear protection.
Are
you really going to carry a fucking lever gun, or are you going to carry an AR or a FAL or something?
You're definitely an AR is not going. You don't want to go. Not that you couldn't kill a Kodiak bear with an AR-15, but you really don't want to be shooting a Kodiak bear with 22.
So you wouldn't go retro? Maybe go with like a 30 caliber cartridge, like the M1 carbine.
Well, M1 carbine, that's
less. I know.
That's less.
Yes,
that's less. I mean, you got 30 rounds, but still,
maybe you.
I don't know I don't know if 30 carbine, and I know there's going to be some fanboys out there. I don't know if 30 carbine would puncture the fur on a Kodiak bear. It's basically a 9mm that is trying to be something it's not. But I mean, you could do it with a M1 Garand.
So
30-06.
Do you own a lever gun?
I own
37 lever guns.
No, I don't. I'm going to say 3 lever guns. Familiar with Chisel's
product.
product.
So they do all the cool stocks and the little Delron holders and stuff for your rounds and shit, the skeletonized stock and stuff. That Chris has on all his stuff.
That's cool.
And then War Pig Customs does the custom work on them.
That's cool, but you buy a lever gun for the nostalgic of the lever gun. Why would you put all that tactical shit on? Because even, like you said, Chris said, Indians come over the hill. Even if they have bow and arrows, you're still not grabbing the lever gun. You're going to get your AR-15 and be like, that's a lot of Indians.
I don't know, man. I think Chris might grab. He's gonna have an AR there probably.
The first 8 rounds. Maybe he'll fire the first 8 rounds.
I feel like he's got it because it's like carrying the U6, right? You're like, one day I'm gonna get to kill a man with this. Maybe. So he just has his lever gun like in a scabbard.
Maybe the first 8 rounds that he fired. I don't know what the 4570 holds. 5 rounds. Maybe the first 5 rounds, and then the 2 he's got in his little. He's going to shoot at the Indians,
and then they're suppressing those things.
But then he's going to go to the. I know they're suppressing them. They're doing tactical courses. They're doing all that stuff. But then again, okay, if you live in California, a lever gun 4570 tactical course is cool because you can't do anything else. But in the real world,
okay, let me throw some.
You're not going up against somebody with an AR-15 and your lever gun.
Let me throw some love out here. Okay, everybody wants the lever gun right now because Chris has it, right? And it's like the It's like the AK-47. But in the early 90s, nobody fucking wanted it. You could buy an AK-47 for $500
$300
because you
back then.
couldn't put any shit on it. As soon
Right.
as Surefire came out with a light for that fucking thing, everybody wanted AK-47s.
I will still argue. I would still argue with people, like a gun store owner that we know. I will still argue with people that why would you ever buy an AK-47? It is the antiquated platform. It's the antiquated platform of the lever gun. Like if you're talking about assault rifles, it's an STG-44. It's antiquated. You does not compete even with the modern guns like the AK-12 that everybody's worried about them running around with in Ukraine, the Russians. They're not even using optics on their rifles. They're still using iron sights.
But the AK-47 is still as old as like MP5.
Yes.
HKG3.
I mean, if you want to be realistic, about that, sorry, HK,
yeah.
the MP5 is antiquated. It doesn't.
Absolutely it is.
You know,
and the
a
Nazis, we were in Las Vegas
in
a man's house it was like a jail cell.
Yes.
Do you remember where we were?
Yeah.
And he had SS marks on all those guns. Like he had the actual guns.
Yes.
And I'm like, what is that? It looked like an HK-93, right?
Yes.
And he's like, no, this was like 40 years before the Germans actually used these.
This, yeah.
So I mean the technology, it probably wasn't even HK that built or designed that thing. HK just brought it to market or whatever. I mean, I don't know the history of it, but they were shooting dudes in World War II with those things.
Yes.
So
I mean,
of course, yeah, and I said it to be silly. I mean, the technology, absolutely the technology. But back to, I feel like I was on the range across the street. Fuck, it had to be 10, 15 years ago. And Dr. Sherman House had a 45-70, and I want to say it was like Magna ported. So he's shooting this 45-70, and we're standing. It had been raining, so there's like these ponds of water. They're maybe 6 inches deep at the most, the size of a few cars. And when he would shoot this gun, it would kill the frogs in the pond and empty the water out of the pond. It would literally like tidal wave the water out of the pond. But Sherman was fucking around with 45s and 500 Smith & Wesson pistols. Him and Smiley. And Sherman was, I want to say he was double-handing these, one in each hand, shooting these things. And it literally was killing the frogs that were in the pond. Like, I don't know if it killed, maybe it just stunned them, but like they were fucked up. But Sherman was messing around with 45-70 stuff before any of these guys were doing cool shit. And even James Rexroad, our friend James, and our SEAL friend with the purple Corvette.
Yes.
He had a 45-70 that was cut like retard short.
Yes. But he had a specific reason.
It was Magna ported.
Yeah.
And I remember Cody's mom shooting that thing. And there was a short foul too. And when they would shoot that, I knew exactly which of my teeth had fillings in it. Yes. I was standing 10 feet away, and I think it loosened the fucking fillings in my teeth. These guns they're insane. So what was our purple Corvette friend's reason? Because he wasn't a sheriff yet. He was still in the teams.
He was still in the teams, but he was doing all the SEER training, or not the SEER training, the cold weather training that the Navy does up there in Alaska.
Because ARs don't work in the cold?
No, the ARs work in the cold, but again, you don't want to shoot a Kodiak Bear with a 22 rifle. Okay. You want to shoot a Kodiak Bear with the biggest pill you possibly can, and a 45-70 fits that bill because it's, his concern was it's all close range, right? The bear is going to come the bear's coming for the food that you have there, and the fact that you're a nice little burrito laying in your tent, and so you want something small and quick that you can, let the bear know you're there.
Do you know who Cameron Haynes is?
I know the name.
So Cameron, if you've never seen him, look him up on Instagram. But Cameron was on Andy Frisella's show, and he's a big game hunter, really into archery. I think everything he shoots now is just with a bow, with an arrow. And he was like, I didn't know the difference between what a grizzly bear and a brown bear. A grizzly bear is a brown bear, but not all brown bears are grizzly bears, and it's island dependent, I guess. So these like Kodiak Island bears, grizzly bears are not the big brown bears apparently. And he gets up 20 feet from these things, and like they know he's there, and he shoots these things with a arrow, But it's just fucking wild to hear his stories about how close you are to these things and the smell and just.
I mean,
by the time you're done, it's like watching the Karate Kid. I'm gonna go learn karate. Like you listen to Cameron Haynes, you're like, I'm gonna go shoot some of these bears.
no, I mean, the interesting thing about nature is nature will allow you to do a lot of dumb shit. Obviously, he's a professional. He's up there hunting these bears, but like, male bears. Those male bears aren't really afraid of anything, so you can get close. It's usually the female bears protecting their cubs that fucking eat people alive. But that's not to say that a male bear will not just yawn, swat you, and that hand, that paw is bigger than your entire head, and so he may even just be fucking around and push you over, and that's going to kill you. So, I mean, we do dumb shit. I mean, think about last year. How many tourists were killed by buffalo in Yosemite?
I got one.
Buffalo. Slow, dumb animals. They can run, I get it, but still. They're just hanging around eating grass, and people are so dumb that they don't realize that all he has to do is turn around and he's going to knock your socks off.
So I'm going somewhere with this. Do you remember, like in San Diego, I feel like a mountain biker gets eaten at least once or twice a year by a
mountain lion.
By a mountain lion.
Yeah.
So somebody thought it would be a great idea to release wolves out here, LBL, right? So there's wolves out there. There's a pack of wolves now.
Okay.
There are 6 confirmed mountain lions in Obion County and Henry County and Wrigley County, or Wiggly, whatever. It's real close here, right? Mm-hmm. And then they've got DNA testing. Tennessee Wildlife Authority came out 2 weeks ago and stated, yes, there are in fact 6 confirmed mountain lions here, and they've got DNA hair testing and stuff. And then 2 years ago, about 35 minutes from here, on a game camera, a fucking black panther or puma or something.
Oh yeah, I saw the picture of the black cat.
So I guess we're gonna get to test out the usefulness of these. Like I've always wanted big dogs, right? And they use them for high predator load like that.
So you are not going to have a predator problem because of the amount of dogs that you have and how much piss they're putting all over your property. The cats aren't. I mean, here's the reality: they're everywhere. Go ahead and look up mountain lions in Los Angeles County.
Yep.
And look at all the
San Diego,
the camera videos of the sun coming up and the fucking cats just coming out of people's neighborhoods and going up to the hills.
And with their cats and dogs.
Yeah, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with predators. We need predators. The reason why you have deer wasting disease is because the predators have not been taking out the weak because we killed all the predators.
So they showed around Yellowstone. I know there's a lot of hard feelings about the wolves being reintroduced for people like with sheep and stuff, right? Yeah. But if you're fenced, you can have dogs. And if you have dogs, you don't really have the wolf problem if you have the right dogs. But they're showing that because the wolves came back, these grasslands, the whole way they move and stuff, it's rerouted the flow of rivers and stuff.
It's helped the ecosystem. There was a bunch of invasive species things going on in Yosemite, and the minute they introduced the wolves, that ended.
I think because the wolves eat beavers or something. There was something. It had something to do with beavers and stuff.
They eat everything.
Yeah.
They eat everything. But you have a ecological problem. It's usually because you've eliminated the predators. So I don't have a problem with them because the reality is a mountain lion doesn't want anything to do with you. A Kodiak bear doesn't want anything to do with you. Now, if you're holding a hamburger patty at your campsite and the bear's coming, he's going to want to eat that hamburger patty. Now, if he takes your hand with you,
you should have let go of the hamburger.
That's Mother Nature. You are supposed to be taken from the herd, right? You're the one that is supposed to be dragged out in the woods by the super predator. So I don't have a problem with it. If you have small dogs and small cats and you leave them outside and there are bobcats and mountain lions and coyotes that drag your little dumb animals off, again, that's Mother Nature telling you that your animal should be inside, not outside. And besides, the biggest predator and the biggest destruction of mammals on this planet is? House cat.
Oh, yeah.
House cat kills more animals.
Moves 20 miles a night or something.
20 miles a night, kills everything it sees.
For fun.
And that's the interesting thing about cats. Cats are one of the few animals that kill just to kill. So when you have your cuddly little cat on your lap and you let it out every night, understand that it is doing immense damage to the planet. Now, I don't see many people protesting cats because you know who you are. You like to have a lot of them, and you're just in your house. That's why.
So do you think cats should not be allowed outside?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I reintroduce wolves. Let cats do whatever cats want to do.
So how many?
The reality is coyotes.
How many cats do you think live on this property?
Oh, I've seen at least 10 already.
Probably outside,
Yeah,
right?
Outside.
I am of the belief that my employees, when they don't want their cats anymore,
Bring them here and drop them off.
fucking bring them here and drop them off, because there's always a new cat that shows up here.
That's Loretta. Well, you know what? It could be that, but it also could be the fact that you free feed outside.
We do. The chickens have found the feed. The chickens come up. You'll go to the bowl out there, and I'm like, look at this shit. There's 6 cats sitting eating at this bowl, and there's 2 chickens sitting with the cats. I'm like, why don't these cats eat these chickens? Because it's a size thing.
Yeah. I mean, if there was super predators out here, if there were wolves, then the cat problem would solve itself.
Now, there's probably a time in the 24 hours when I'm not outside, definitely, right? So I don't know what's happening maybe between the hours of 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. But when I walk out the door at 4 a.m. in the morning to make a video, the cats follow me around, and they seem all accounted for. So I'm assuming they're leaving maybe it's because we have enough property and we feed them, so they're not out hunting and killing.
They don't have to go if you're free feeding them.
Like, I have mice. I leave the feed house open so that the cats can get in there, and they're in there all the time hunting and eating things. But like at the rabbit shed, because it's inside the perimeter fence where the dogs are.
Yeah, cats don't go in.
Cats, but you get up there in the dark. Sometimes you will see it. I'm like, ooh, you are really testing your luck. Like they're gonna eat you.
Cats will attempt the craziest shit. Well, I haven't seen any of these cats before. The gray cat,
Your old boy cat.
Your old gray cat. He followed me all the way down to the store.
Did he?
Just
did he?
Followed me down to the store.
He remembers you.
I thought he was going to go with me to the store, but he stopped at the fence and then.
So he's like the old. He's Cecil the lion, right? He's been cut from the herd, and they're not letting him breed any. Well, all those they're all fixed, but he's been pushed to the back here. So he comes out, and Amanda feeds him a can of, I don't know, hot dogs or something, fucking wet food or something. But he is not out rumbling with the
young kids.
Yeah, he ain't out there with a switchblade cutting up other cats no more.
Cats. Well, I mean, that's what you got to do. You got to do it.
Yeah.
And he probably, if you guys were not free feeding, he probably would be.
Yeah, they'd probably kill him.
Yeah,
run him
they
off.
would either killed him or he'd be killing the young bucks.
Yeah. So back to disposable.
Oh, disposable. I mean, disposable rigs. You know, when you're at the ninja level, you have an amount of disposable equipment.
When you're watching Tyler Gray,
you saw how much disposable equipment we left in Afghanistan.
That was the old stuff.
How much disposable equipment we left in Afghanistan. So,
why do you think they left all that in Afghanistan?
Okay. The truth?
Yeah, the real answer. What do you think?
The real truth is the Secretary of Defense is a soup sandwich. The Biden administration, the people that he's put in the positions of power, are soup sandwiches. They don't know nothing. They don't know nothing about how to deploy or recover a military force. And because they put all these soup sandwiches, I mean, look at our
our nuclear guy.
No, the guy
your cross dressers.
Yeah, look at who they've put in these positions. They don't have the ability to understand the complexity of combat and what's involved, and so they just soup sandwiched. Like, the reality is, the Biden administration didn't even know how many Americans were left in Kabul. They didn't know. They were in under the table talks with you know how those veterans organizations were going over there and sneaking people out?
Yeah, we know some of those guys.
Yes, okay. There were Air Force generals, colonels, Army guys calling those people and be like, "Hey, we have this guy. We can't get him out. Can you go get him?"
Yeah.
That's soup sandwich. Delta Force, that is just a administration that doesn't have any clue on what it's doing. And that's why that happened. I mean, the reality is they had Afghans falling off of C-141s, C5s, because they had no control at that airport. That
So
a marine rifle company could have secured that airfield if they would have been like, secure the airfield. 82nd Airborne, the Marines that were there, the Air Force, nobody knew what the fuck they were doing.
So do you think
Not
you think it's incompetence or you think it's malicious?
no, it's incompetence.
You really
It is
believe it?
100%. It's incompetence. It's 100% incompetence. They do
So-
not have the right people in the right places in order to effectively execute policy.
How long till those weapons are being used against our service?
They already are.
How many of those guns do you think have hit the Mexican border coming in the United States?
I don't know.
I heard there was a bunch, like they've caught a bunch of Russians coming into the United States.
I don't know. But if you're out there in TV land and you know where those guns and things are coming, there's some of that equipment I would like to have, like an MRAP. If you can get an MRAP over here, or
There's one right up the road here,
I mean, yeah, but that belongs to the sheriff's department.
but they don't even have a guy with a CDL. We can use it.
Well, I wanted to be a volunteer at my sheriff's department specifically to
Just to
drive
drive
their
the
MRAP,
MRAP?
just be the MRAP guy.
How much does it really cost to buy an MRAP at this point?
Well, so there's only a couple of them that are out there on the market right now, and they're expensive. They're like $295,000
Because they're currently updated and
because
of usable. They're useless.
because the Obama administration put
On the surplus thing.
a moratorium on armored vehicles, so you can't get an armored MRAP. Now, the ones that are out on the market are one was one that they used for movies, and that's how they got it. And another one is a training vehicle that whatever the parent company is for MRAP that they had. They used it just for training. They're not training anybody anymore, so it's been sold a couple of times. The legality of being able to have an MRAP, an armored vehicle like that, might be a little weird.
What's that thing that Tony owns from Microtech? He had some.
Yeah, he's got I feel like it's called a Cougar,
Jason would drive that thing around.
but that's a whole different animal. He actually bought that thing brand new. So
It's a civilian build.
Yeah, I feel like if you had, I don't know, I'm guessing a real MRAP costs the government $600,000. I feel like if you had $600,000, you could go buy an MRAP from
Jacob was
company,
just at some
but
arms show or some. I don't know where he was.
that's not
But
really
he,
in my.
he
That's
had
not really in my
pictures.
budget.
He had pictures with some brand new MRAPs that they're. I don't know. It's got to be an arms show he was at. I don't know where it was.
It was the ASAU, but it's the big arms show for the military where they bring out all the new
Like
stuff.
deal of the century.
Yeah, deal of the century, where they had the I mean, the big thing right now is that all the armored companies are making diesel electrics so they can run electric armored vehicles.
So they're quiet.
Super quiet, like
That's why they want them.
yeah, super. Well, they want them because everybody's trying to pretend like green matters, but in the reality is, no one, not in this century, is going to fight a war with battery powered fucking vehicles.
Right.
They're
But, I
not-
mean,
they're fucked.
California just banned
Yeah.
all natural gas fucking appliances and heaters.
Yeah.
And then I guess it went into effect last year. No more gasoline small motors. So there's no generators or lawn equipment.
And even
can
that is-
burn gas.
Even that is taking a little bit of a tank if you follow any of the electric home gardening tools, right, or whatever, the DeWalt stuff.
And we're dudes that own them. We're not against them.
Oh yeah, I have the whole. I bought all the 40 volt. Now I'm starting to transition to 20 volt because, man, I love the DeWalt. I love the DeWalt 40 volt chainsaw. That thing.
There's something to be said for the weight when you're swinging it and using it a lot.
It's 100% lighter, even with the 40 volt battery. It's 100% lighter than any of the gas operated chainsaws. And for a long time, since we did cleared all the trees out of the church parking lot, I believed that the DeWalt 40 volt was the best. Why would I mess around with gas? And then, just recently, I had to cut down really big trees.
Yeah, that's where you.
And I broke down and I bought a gas.
What'd you buy? What brand?
It's not Husqvarna. It's
Steel.
Steel.
Nice.
So I broke down and bought a steel. When the steel, kind of the same problem is gas. When you're dealing with gas stuff, you have to, it takes a little bit more to get it operational. Meaning, all I have to do with the electric one, put the battery in, and I'm cutting. Stops running, I get another battery, I'm cutting. With the gas stuff, it requires a little more patience.
Not only that,
But-
you're never going to grab your battery powered chainsaw out of the shed after it's been sitting there for a year.
Yeah.
And 30 minutes later, after you've taken it apart and cleaned the carburetor, you realize the fuel line is rotted out because of the ethanol gas.
But I will say once the saw's running, it's warmed up and it's going, and oh my God, it makes the battery powered saw look like a fucking toy.
Super underpowered. You don't even
underpowered. It doesn't cut nearly as well as the gas powered thing. But I mean, in the industry, all the people that do lawn and garden for a living that transitioned over to electric, they did it 2, 3, 4 years ago, and what they're now all coming out going, I need to go back to gas because this electric shit does not work. The issue is the batteries. It doesn't matter what anybody says. Your electric car that you bought, when your batteries are no good anymore, which they will run out of life, costs at minimum $30,000 to replace those batteries. Are you going to replace the batteries or are you going to buy a new car? So if you only get 5 years out of that battery, you're creating more of a waste stream with your electric vehicle and your electric lawnmower than you are if you would have just bought a regular gas car, period.
So I don't give a shit about waste stream because I don't have to deal with it, right? But for...
You do. They bring it all to Camden.
Yeah, no shit. But for end of the world kind of stuff, it seems like we have a private group on YouTube and we do a question answer, and the gas versus electric thing comes up a lot. And what we're talking about is gas generator versus solar generator. Solar generator is just code word for fancy battery pack.
Right.
And I love the idea of the battery pack because of solar, right? But we're talking 6 months after the collapse, the gasoline's gone, the gasoline's out, right? And the whole reason that I bought that electric, the solar generator, the Blue Eddy stuff,
Yeah.
is because I want an Ubco electric bicycle. And I picture having trade days at Camden Court Square, right? And we're going to have to ride the electric bicycle up there with our carrots or whatever. And I could, in theory, hook up those solar panels and charge those batteries and charge that bike off the batteries, right? So I like the idea of it. It's not, none of it is this power. Like where you really see the difference, the demarcation between the gas and the electric tools, go get a string trimmer and try to fucking do a mile of fence line with a string trimmer. Not fucking happening. Like they're just not, it's not there. I've got the mower, which is cool. I bought the Cobalt stuff because you had the 40 volt. I wanted the 60. Couldn't find the 60 DeWalt anywhere. Cobalt had 80. 80's got to be better than 40.
I mean, even DeWalt killed the 40.
So
I don't know why.
Yeah. So I mean, Milwaukee just came out with a damn walk behind mower. It takes 2 of these batteries, and the mower, I want to say it's $2,000 for a walk behind. I mean, I can buy a mower like a real one, you know. I mean, shit, we have tons of them.
I'm the same way. I'm not an anti-battery guy. It's just that there are so many, sorry, Brandel, so many liberals that are resting all their hopes and dreams on electrical power that it's going to save the planet, and it's not going to save the planet. I mean, I have an electric mower, I have an electric string trimmer, a hedger, I have the whole kit. When my buddy bought his property, I'm like, go get this 40 volt DeWalt or this 20 volt DeWalt stuff. It's going to be pretty good.
It's going to be awesome for 90% of the shit you do.
We can do what we need to do. I love the electrical stuff, but the reality is it doesn't live up to the expectations that people have of what they're going to do. I mean, you know, if you can't listen to the alien Elon Musk when he says there's no way that electric cars are going to be the dominant vehicle, then, I mean, you just don't have a clue on what electricity really is and how much cobalt and all the, I mean, I put it this way. Liberals are okay. Liberals are okay with anything. They're okay with slavery. They're okay They're okay with pollution. They're okay with anything. As long as it's somewhere else.
Yeah.
As long as it's somewhere else. As long as we are destroying the entire continent of Africa.
As long as they can pretend that it's
pulling all the cobalt and all the stuff we need out of the ground in order for them to have their, you know, $1,500 iPhone, then they are perfectly fine with it. Same thing with like slavery.
I think there's 2 factions. I think one group makes a lot of money off of this bullshit.
Yeah.
And then there's another group that it's insidious, right? They want to do it sheerly out of control, because if we can convince you or make you have an electric vehicle, we can just turn your shit off.
Yeah. I mean,
at any time.
That is the way all manufacturing is going. Did you see with BMW?
Yeah, the electric heated seats
where they can just like, hey,
you have to buy it.
You're just renting these electric seats. Fuck you, BMW.
I feel like Toyota had something kind of like that.
I mean, the audacity of these companies just grabbing and grabbing and grabbing, it's ridiculous. I mean, I don't see it playing out very well for them.
No.
In the long run.
Well, PayPal seems to be doing their stock seems to have taken a little tank there in the last couple of days.
I mean, I don't even know what you guys are thinking. You're providing services. You're not shaping the world.
Elon Musk came. Elon Musk was one of the first guys.
Yeah, that's how
PayPal,
he made his big money.
And he immediately came out. He's like, "This is not the intention of this.
Yeah,
to manipulate your mind flow and punish you for things you say."
Well, that's the whole point. I know that again, Randall. I'm sorry. I know all the people in the woods that are buying Bitcoin, and they're like, "Oh, Bitcoin's going to save the world, and it's going to be the best." And here's the thing: Bitcoin is going to be used to control you, no matter what, because it's not real. It's not real. It's just not real. No matter what anybody tells you, it's not real. And because it's not real, some 12-year-old hacker that's been in his basement his whole life can steal all your Bitcoin. Or a government can be like, guess what? You don't have any more Bitcoin. And there's nothing you can do about it.
I don't think they can.
Yeah.
I don't think they can.
That's where we're going, John.
I agree with you on the US coin or whatever nonsense.
Well, the point is to get. Here's the thing about.
Do you not have any Bitcoin?
No.
Can I give you some?
No. I don't want any. I don't want it. It's just the reality is, it's not useful at this point, and it is a 100%. See it's 100% a means of control. What are you going to use for commerce? When it collapses?
So, are you of the belief that we won't have cash in probably maybe 12 months, 18 months?
Probably.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what are you going to use?
You're not going to use Bitcoin.
Okay, what are you going to use?
I'm going to use whatever.
Their Fed coin?
Yeah, I'm going to use whatever is provided. But the reality is, you're not going to use Bitcoin because the minute we change over, the minute the federal government decides almost all transactions are going to be done in a digital currency, the first thing they're going to do is go to war with every digital coin and destroy them. I have no Bitcoin. It would probably surprise no one that I don't have any serious investments. I'm not bad mouthing Bitcoin. It is if you are into playing the markets, it is a market to play. No different than oranges or the fucking pork stocks. But the reality is, if the U.S. dollar collapses, whatever comes out of that government, because again, we're not going to start in Camden Town Square. Whatever comes out of the government is going to be what everybody uses, and the government will go out and crush any other currency usage. So,
what does said crushing look like?
It becomes a non-form of payment that you can't do anything with it. You just can't do. I mean, it'll be like having Deutschmarks in 1935 or 1925. They'll be worthless. You won't be able to do anything with them. Same thing.
What about silver and gold?
Well, okay. Secretly, because no one's paying attention, the Chinese and the Russians are buying all the silver and gold that they can get their hands on, because they are going to create a digital currency that's going to be backed by that silver and gold, and that has the potential to destroying U.S. currency. The problem is, right now I say, U.S. currency is actually the petrodollar, and it's backed by oil prices.
Seems like that's not going to be for long, though.
Maybe. I mean, the thing about the Saudis is the thing about the Middle East is they have to have U.S. support in order to exist. They don't exist on their own. Without us, they're a tribe on camels running through the desert. I'm sorry, it's true. The Chinese and the Russians would run those people into the ground. Their militaries are purely paper tigers. Yes, they have all the same equipment we do, and they spend millions and millions of dollars on it, but they are like any other dictatorship in the world. They don't really train their troops to fight in wars because well-trained troops in dictatorships tend to take over the country. So they're a paper tiger. Yeah, they got Apache helicopters, but so what? Doesn't mean anything. They need us. They need aircraft carriers. They need all that stuff. And so I don't think while the Chinese and the Russians are trying to butter up the rest of the world as far as going over to the currencies, the problem with those two countries is they're notorious for fucking around with their currencies. Not that we don't do it, but we don't do it in the same level. Meaning, if Xi Jinping, if old Panda Bear decided that the yen is worth $5 today, tomorrow he literally could come out and go, it's really only worth $2. And the Chinese do that. They mess with their money in a way that doesn't make any sense, right? Where at least here you can be like, yeah, I know that the dollar is tanking because of this, this, and this, and it can rise based off of this. Where in China, that market, and the problem with the Russians and the Chinese is they are notorious enemies, and that alliance is not going to last long. I mean, the Chinese are already mad that the Russians are throwing all the latest equipment into Ukraine, and it's getting the shit kicked out of it because that's the exact same equipment. Yeah.
Are they?
Oh, yeah. They lost the Su-35 within the first week. That is China's main fighter aircraft. They are not happy with what is going on in Ukraine.
And a 12-year-old shot that down with what?
12-year-old shot that down with I think it was actually a British missile.
Ground to air.
Yeah, ground to air. We were very late to the party in Ukraine. While we're running around telling everybody that javelins and Sting, we're sending all this high-tech equipment over there. The Ukrainians were killing Russian tanks with Sweden and British, all their equipment before our javelins even got on the ground. I mean, we have a technology problem in America. Our shit is awesome, but it all runs off of batteries. And usually it's easy to get missiles and trackers and all that shit in a box. And there's always a dude who's like, we forgot the batteries.
They don't run off like 5590s?
They do run off 5590s.
For real?
For real. Well, I think it's a newer version of the 5590. But
Can't you just use like your LiPo airsoft fucking gun?
It would be, somebody probably could jerry rig it. But again, that was the problem with the Javelin missiles. We sent a bunch of Javelins over there, and
Ranger,
they didn't.
Ranger Dave could make that shit work.
Ranger. The war would be over if Ranger Dave was over there. Like literally, with all the stuff.
I don't think they want the war over. Do you not think this is all about us just dumping all of our equipment so that we have to fucking give contracts to build a bunch more equipment?
Well, we did that in Afghanistan. That's where those contracts are coming from. This is literally about depleting Russia's ability to fight World War III.
So we're using everything they have at it.
We're throwing we're throwing a lot of stuff at it. But
so does that not put him in a more dangerous position to actually use nuclear?
It does, but it doesn't fall within the criteria of what Russians would use nuclear weapons for. Now, that's the issue with Crimea. Is Russia considers Crimea a Russian state now? It's no longer part of Ukraine, and they have said that they would use nuclear weapons to defend the state. The world can't attack Russia and get rid of the state of Russia. So, could he use nuclear weapons? Probably.
Let's change could with would, because he can.
Well, the problem, again, using nuclear weapons is a little more complicated than people think. It's not, Joe Biden opening the fucking suitcase and pushing a button. Those commands when we do launch commands, they go out to other senior commanders. And Russia has had an opportunity, due to a technical glitch, to destroy the United States of America through nuclear conflict, and they didn't do it. They basically got to the
phone calls made.
Yeah, once it got to the guy who was actually, he's like, let's just wait. So I feel like there would be a lot of hesitation, but maybe not. I mean, if the submarine commander that's off the coast of New York City right now, sitting on the bottom of the Atlantic, gets that flash message, he might just push the buttons and New York City's gone.
Would you be mad?
I mean, there's still some, just like cats and dogs, and there's maybe some nice people in New York City.
When's the last time you were there?
To be honest, I've never been to New York City.
Would you rather them bomb New York City or California?
Ooh, I don't think they would have to bomb California if they just called Gavin Newsom and said, "Hey, you have an opportunity to be part of the new Soviet Union." I think Gavin would just secede the state to Russia. I don't think they would have to bomb them at all.
Do you think that Gavin Newsom and Trudeau are in fact the same person?
They are not the same person.
They seem the same.
Trudeau is definitely a communist.
Yeah, well, I mean, his dad is Castro.
Yeah, he's definitely a communist. So,
like,
Canada.
like undisputable.
Canada used to run around talking about being the freest place in the world, and now look at you.
I think we should annex Canada.
I mean, it's a possibility if World War III happens.
I mean, wasn't Canada going to invade or we were going to invade Canada?
We actually tried, and the Canadians whipped our ass. But that was 18
Davy Crockett shit.
Something or other, yeah. We were in the wrong place. We thought we were somewhere we thought we were supposed to be, and we were technically in Canada, and it was a mess. You know, property disputes, things like that.
Then we could just have every EBT issue, every time they get their cards re-upped for food stamps, they could just get maple syrup with it.
Which is a strategic reserve in Canada.
Yeah, didn't they have millions of gallons? There's a heist that
20 million gallons.
20 million gallons of maple syrup. It's never been recovered.
It's a strategic. We put oil in the ground. Case of war. The Canadians, maple syrup. Which, I mean, I don't know. We haven't fought World War III, so maybe the thing that saves us is maple syrup. Maybe they're like, hey, if we just rub maple syrup all over these burn victims, everything will be fine. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe Canada does come in for the big win because they stored maple syrup while we're like, what do we do with all this fucking oil? So you never know.
Do you think we really have oil stored up, or do you think that we're actually burning it and using it to make the price at the pump go down, and you think that's just all horseshit?
Your president, Joe Biden, released strategic stock oil in order to reduce gas prices at the pump 5 months ago. So he's tapped those reserves and he's using them. How much is in the reserves? I don't know, because we've tapped them a couple of times and I've never heard of them like, hey, we got to put more oil in the strategic oil reserve. So, I mean, maybe they were replenishing it, but he's tapped it. And he's also gone crawling on his knees to Saudi Arabia.
And they outed him for it.
Now, people need to understand, Joe Biden went to Saudi Arabia and told them, I am going to hold up all defense spending money that is going to you if you do not increase production in order to lower gas prices in the United States until the election. So all he's concerned about is the election. And he did the exact same thing that they impeached Donald Trump for. I don't hear anybody calling for impeachment.
And it actually had the opposite effect. They actually decreased by 50%,
yeah, right.
I believe.
Yeah, here's the thing. The Arab Peninsula is not friends to the Biden administration. I mean,
well, yeah, did you see they were showing the comparison from when Trump landed, and they had like the fucking World's Fair was out there, and then when Biden landed, there was like 3 people on the tarmac or something.
The problem is the administration that is currently in office. You can like them, hate them, whatever. They are against everything. Like, they're doing everything they can to destroy the idea of the Middle East. So if you're a Middle East leader and you see the Biden administration and you look at the makeup of that administration, you're like, you can't even, the reality is, if all the people that are in the Biden administration showed up at the table, they all showed up at the table, we're going to have a big feast. You couldn't even take those motherfuckers seriously.
Well, I mean, they would be beheaded, most of them.
Well, I'm saying is if they all showed up and we were all at the table, you'd be like, is this circus? What is this? What's going on? You couldn't even take those motherfuckers seriously. And all their policies show that nobody there knows what they're doing. They're just trying to woke everything. And the problem is,
Do you think it's
It
to
doesn't work.
destroy the strength of the United States?
Is it to destroy the strength
Is
of
it
the United States?
is it malice?
I don't think they're smart enough. I don't think that is the goal. I think they actually believe in some New York utopian. We're all going to live together, sing kumbaya songs, and drive electric cars. And I think that there is a level of that. Now, when you're talking about the Soros level, it's to manipulate the population, period. Like, Soros don't give a shit about electric cars. Soros does not give a shit about Black Lives Matter.
Because there's no new money. They have to take money.
Yeah, they have to take
so
money.
it's all about it. They have as much money as they can get. To have more money, they have to downclass society.
To have more money, they have to increase their streams. The other thing is something that is very interesting about America that people don't pay attention to when they're talking about capitalism is bad. We make more millionaires. We make more millionaires and billionaires a year than any other place in the world. So I think part of the problem is that when you take a look at the Rockefellers and you take a look at Soros and people like that, they used to all get around the table at Davos and be like, "This is what we're going to do. We're going to manipulate oil, and then we're going to." They used to get around that table, and that was a small table, but now the table is getting really big. Like, the table's really, Soros is sitting way down here, Rockefeller's down there, and there's all these new people, all these new millionaires in the way. So they need to create an opportunity to crush all these new people so they can get that table back small. And with what they're doing in this country as far as infighting and who are the people that are making all the money right now? The same people that were making all the money before. All your new entrepreneurs were destroyed not all of them, but a majority of new entrepreneurs were destroyed during COVID. The Exxon family was still making millions of money. Pfizer, they're still making millions of money. So the Vanderbilt, the people, the real players were still allowed to keep their doors open. Walmart, why was Food for Less required to close, but Walmart could stay open? Well, the reason why is because of the Waltons, because they're billionaires. You can't shut billionaires down. Like, Walmart did a deal. Maybe some of you saw this, maybe some of you didn't. Walmart did a deal with the federal government.
Homeland Security, biggest supplier.
Where they said, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to give out N95 masks in all our stores. And on my little store here in Waverly, they had a shopping cart by the door full of N95 masks. You could take a mask if you wanted a mask. Now, here in Waverly, the truth of the matter is nobody wore masks unless they were over the age of 65, which I completely understand. But none of the employees of Walmart were required to wear an N95 mask. So if the company is not concerned about what type of masks the employees wear, then the N95 mask is basically bullshit, period. I mean, it's just, if the company's not requiring the employees to wear that type of mask, then why would you need that type of mask? And from a George Soros running the world type of deal, or Walmart's, if you had employees that were dying of COVID at an alarming number, you would require your employees to wear N95 masks because you need employees to stock the shelves, stand in the checkout line and make sure nobody's stealing water. You need those employees, so they would have to keep those employees alive. So just by the fact that Walmart never made their employees wear N95 masks tells you all you need to know about what was going on in COVID. I mean, it's just rich people trying to get richer, and those streams are getting smaller because there's more people at the table. They need to shut those tables down.
Got it.
I mean, it's like I don't know. They just need to shut those tables down. And when we were talking about Bitcoin, I'm not anti-Bitcoin. If you want to invest whatever you have, I mean, the reality is all investments are a gamble. That's why you're able to get the returns you're getting. If you really look at Bitcoin, it's a pyramid scheme, but
what do you want to convert your cash into?
The reality is gold and silver seem to always survive these type of things.
They survive, but they never like.
Well, I mean, if you think,
sure, I mean,
if you
like
think but honestly, if you think about when me and you were young kids running around Oceanside, you could get an ounce of gold for $200.
Yeah.
And if we would have, now, obviously, inflation has killed the dollar. And so if you do math, it might not be worth as much. But if we would have used our $200 and been buying ounces of gold, I mean, the reality is I could be a millionaire. It's the same thing, you know, it's the same hindsight of I really should have just been buying houses in Santee, California.